Can't use that one. He had to be in it.
Well, unfortunately, anytime I found a picture, he was there.
Oh. He thinks he makes people look better.
Yeah. My mom, of course, when I had to talk about my mom, because she is my mentor, everybody almost here knows her, so I had to think of something that maybe you didn't know. She influenced me the most because I watched her from time to time. I can remember even when I was I remember from 4 on. The beginning of remembering was when I was 4, and Mom took in her 3 young brothers and sisters because my grandma and grandpa died. I don't know them because I was so young. And so she brought them in, and they were all older than me, and then we had the 3 of us and 1 on the way. So she had all those, and then not only that, she took in her grandma because her grandma didn't have no place to go, so she took in her grandmother. Her grandmother was real bad. She couldn't hardly do anything for herself. So my mom had us 3, 1 on the way, her 3 brothers and sisters and her grandma, and then my dad. And my dad was not a Christian then, and so it was pretty bad because he was an alcoholic. She took in all this. She cooked every 3 meals a day for them. And not only that, where we lived at that time was this gigantic house, but behind it was this train. And if anybody's been in Council Bluffs, it's a train station itself. And behind it was a train, and always we called them hobos back then, but the homeless, they would jump off and they would knock at the back of the door. And my mom always went and cooked for them and gave them something to eat. And I remember it clearly. I remember it as if it was today. She would not, of course, let them in the house because of all the children, but she would say, if you'll sit here, I'll go cook you something. And it don't matter, even though she was cooking for all these, she always found food them. And this is what she told somebody one time that asked her about it. And she told me, I don't remember this conversation, but she was telling me later about it. They were saying, how can you give when you're trying to feed all these people? How are you going to? She goes, I always remember that scripture. I might be doing angels unaware. And she goes, so I always remember now. This is what I remember from the time I was 4, and if I look back from then until she passed away, even until today, she always had her house open. She always opened the door. I cannot remember a time where somebody was not staying at her house, somebody was not coming over for supper, somebody was not coming in, knocking, asking for something, asking for money, and she always had something. Even if it wasn't the best, she gave. And she cooked, and it didn't matter who it was, and that's what kind she was. I can always remember wherever it was. In fact, let me say this: when I married her and we had our own house, I felt lonely because I was always used to somebody there, and I was so quiet, and I'm thinking, I got to do something here. So I went and found people, started inviting them over because I couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. Even now, even though she's gone, the house down in her Osage Beach is always open. And just this last Labor Day, whatever it was, we had people come over and just minister right there to them. Lorraine and her children got to come down this time. And it's always open. And I look now after I hear her, and I see the daughters that we have that's been transferred to us. And now we keep our house open. And it's not because of us, but it's because we watched somebody do it. She taught us how to keep a love and how to bring in people, even though sometimes we're thinking, man, I need to be by myself. It doesn't matter. Christ is there. And that's the kind of woman I know. Even though some seen the other, I seen the woman that always opened her door. When they had a church down here in Bella, there was a man that come to the door and knocked at the door and asked for money. And she said, I didn't have any cash. And she said, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash. And when she started the church, she went to church and she goes, God, I feel so bad. If you will have him come back, I'll find money. He come back to church that day. And she give him money because she was that type. She always had to make sure that she gave. And she gave, and when she never even really had it to give, she still gave. And it was transferred to us. And that's my kind of mom and my mentor.
Yay.